Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan. Today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive on graded and grass-fed beef. I spoke with a local beef producer and got a little bit deeper insight than what Google had to offer. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about the bird flu. I know it's in a lot of episodes lately, but it's in the news. It's relevant. And I'm not going to harp on it. And hopefully this is the last we chat about it. I'm also going to do a little shout out around the country and then around the world for the people that have been tuning in to the Simply Growing Food Podcast. Stay tuned to the end of the show. I'm going to do a list. And if you're from one of those places, I want to hear from you. I want to know who's listening. Give me some feedback. Just say hi. Also, if you listen to the end song and tell me, send in the artist and the name of the song, we're going to enter you into our first podcast raffle, okay? We're going to be giving away a Simply Growing Food something. That's what's coming up on the SGF. Stay tuned. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, we've got a lot going on. We actually have an interview coming up this weekend. Stay tuned for next week's episode. It's going to be, we're sitting down with a new friend of ours. She worked in the big chicken industry down in Tejas, that is Texas. And we're going to get a little bit of an insight on that. Now, it's been a while that she's been there, but hey, an insight in that industry from someone that actually lived it is all it's all about. That is what it's all about. So keep an eye out for next week's episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. Today, we're going to start off by talking about beef. I love beef. Beef is really good. I'm a little bit of a stickler when it comes to beef. We have sampled many local farms in the area. It is one meat that, if you know us, you know that we don't grow, which is a dang shame. But it's something we're working on. We just really don't have the space. In New England, it seems like either if you got the space to grow cows, you're probably growing hay and selling that because it's easier. And quicker, a little bit more lucrative. If you got pasture, I guess my point is, if you got pasture, most people are not growing cows on it. You know, they are growing either hay or they've tilled it into corn or something else. There's not a lot of great pasture up in this area. I will say it's pretty rocky, mountainous-ish. You know, not mountains. We're not talking mountains. You know, it's hilly. It's a lot of ledge. Not a lot of great flat pasture. So it's hard to find like pasture-raised beef. I don't even know if that's a marketing thing. I haven't seen pasture-raised. It's all grass-fed when it comes to the beef industry. It's all about grass-fed, which is good. I'm not knocking grass-fed. In fact, the beef that we eat is grass-fed, and it is good, and it is local. And, you know, hey, whatever. So my cousin, shout out to Cody. Thanks for listening. I know you're an avid listener to the show and an avid customer of the farm. We are filling up your fridge every week. Fun fact, Cody is still one of the only customers where I just like go into their house and fill up their fridge with their order or put it on their counter and leave. So that's always fun. Just funny, you know. It's like, hey, you come home and your fridge is full. You don't even have a cooler outside. Your fridge is full. So Cody and Jerry, thanks for being great customers and listeners of this show. Support is felt and appreciated. So Cody recently said something to me about like grading on beef, and I didn't know anything about it because I've been buying local beef for a long time, and local beef doesn't get graded, which is something. So I did a little looking into this. Why does local beef not get graded? I've never seen it with a grade A or prime. Okay, so here we go. Here's the grades. There's 3 categories. We got prime, then we got hold on, let me check my notes here. I wrote it down. Okay, it goes, yeah, that's what I thought. Prime is the best, choice is the middle, and then you got select, which is good, just on the lower end of things. Okay, now don't forget, it really does matter how that animal's raised, what it's fed, where it came from. So even buying by grade in the grocery store, you don't really know. You're not like getting the quality you're going to get locally. Facts. Whatever the grade is, you're not going to get that quality at the grocery store of local beef. Period. Okay, I don't care if it says grass fed. It doesn't matter. You can't prove it, first of all. And in my opinion, I'd rather just know the farmer. That's the best way to do it. So anyway, I spoke with the farmer that grows the beef that we consume. It's very good. I'm going to leave them out. They has to be excluded from this episode name-wise, I guess the reach is a little scary. Not that we have that many listeners, but we have a good core group of listeners, and I appreciate it, guys. We're going to get on that later. I'm getting off topic. So, I spoke with the beef farmer that we deal with, the only beef that we're eating right now. I went to get some steaks for tonight's dinner. Cass has been asking for steak, and we're trying to do this thing where we know where all the food that we're eating is coming from. We have like a really good grasp on it. If we don't grow it, we want to know who did. So we won't buy beef at the grocery store. We buy it from the local farm, and it's really good. So after speaking with this farmer this afternoon about grading and all this stuff and steaks or whatever, I ended up buying 3 really nice looking ribeyes. Now, not graded, of course not, but really good looking steaks. And again, like if you know what you're looking for when it comes to grading, or like what grading means, which we're going to get into, then you can kind of look at a steak and kind of give it an estimation or like an assessment visually, once you kind of know what you're looking for when it comes to what grading means. So Cass has been really wanting some steak. We're trying to eat just food that we grow or we know where it came from, so we're not like going out to eat anywhere. If you know me, you know that I enjoy a good pizza, and it's stuff. We do make pizza from time to time, and that's going to be the only way we eat it. So we're trying to stick to this. So we're almost a month into this and going pretty strong. So, date night, it's not going out to eat. So I decided I'll grab some steaks. Didn't tell her I was grabbing some steaks. I grabbed some steaks, and we're going to have some of that with one of our butterella squashes, which if you've listened to the show, it's like a hybrid squash, winter squash we accidentally did here on the farm this year. Very tasty, very sweet. The butterella is hard to beat. Boom. And then probably some Daigle Farm potatoes. So we've got like the whole meal tonight is going to be from the farm. It's going to be great. So that's our like date night. We got some steak. They weren't cheap, but you know what? They shouldn't have, they shouldn't have to be cheap. It's local beef. My chicken's not cheap. I get it. I know what it takes. So I got some ribeyes. Back to this. Got some ribeyes. I like a good ribeye. It's a great cut. And they're marinating already. We're going to cook those in a couple hours. But I spoke with the farmer, and I said, hey, is it just me, or is local beef not a graded product? And they, she said, yeah, we don't do it. It costs extra money. Of course it freaking does, right? Of course it costs extra money for a government employee to look at a carcass and stamp it with a friggin', a prime label, a choice label, a select, whatever, however they do it in the friggin' packing house. But of course it costs extra for the little guy. I'm sure it costs extra for the big guys. Maybe. Anyway, it kind of just boiled down to the fact that, yes, there is a difference in the grading, so between prime, choice, and select. But the reality is, When it comes to local beef, the selling point is the fact that it's local, it's fresh, and hopefully you've got a transparent farmer who's willing to talk to you about what that cow ate, which our person is. Anything you want to know. Anything you want to know. They're like transparent. Fits our ideology. Transparent. And delicious food. So, prime. When it comes to grading, a grading system between prime, choice, and select when it comes to beef in the government world, in the grocery store world, the government meats. Prime being the top dog here, top dog, means it's got exceptional marbling. What is marbling? Marbling, okay, is the term that they use to explain the flecks of white fat, also known as intramuscular. I was saying intermuscular. I was wrong. It's INTRA, intramuscular fat, that is found throughout the beef. Now, I think all mammals have intramuscular fat. We do. Beef certainly does. I read something about it being unique to beef, about how it like appears in the meat, or doesn't like stay towards the bones. It like is in the meat itself. Something along those lines. So basically, that intramuscular fat is said to make the meat more tender, right? So if you think of a steak, a lot of times the outside edges have the fat, or the trim, whatever. And if you eat it, like I love the fat, of course, it's, whatever they say, it's bad for you, whatever, it's good, it's delicious. I eat it, it's from the animal. They say that the intramuscular fat, much like the edge fat, keeps that meat even more moist and tender and juicy. And what was the other adjective they used here? Hold on. I'll find it. Oh, just the flavor, right? Yeah, fat has its own flavor. So if you got like fat scattered throughout the meat itself, it's just going to have it kind of makes sense to me. It's going to have that fatty flavor mixed with the beefy flavor. And I'm a fan. I eat the fat. I'm a fat eater. I'm down to clown when it comes to beef fat. And pork fat, whatever. We just had a customer shout out to Caitlin. You know who you are if you listen. She took a bunch of our pork fat we had harvested this past year and rendered it down into tallow for us. So we're going to start cooking with that. We'll see how that goes. That's going to be an experience. We're also trying to get away from seed oils like the rest of America. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to bore you with that crap. Do your own research on seed oils. If you care. If you don't, whatever. Okay. So prime, grade, prime, grade, prime is highly speckled beef. And it's speckled with that intramuscular fat. So you can kind of look at it, and that's the marbling. That's what that means. All right. So down the line you go. So you go from prime to choice. Choice is middle. It's going to have some intramuscular speckled fat, but it's just not going to be as copious. Copious in this sense means plentiful. Okay? And then moving down the line to select. You're going to find a lot of sirloin steaks in the select department. Okay? Select's good. I don't like to knock the cut. Don't knock the cut. Just cook it right. You know what I'm saying? You foodies out there, you know what I'm talking about. I'm a foodie. A little bit of a foodie. I'm trying to experiment with more cuts of meat in different cooking ways because, we grow a lot of different cuts. So it's like, not everything can be oven-baked chicken wings. Although, those are good. And those are necessary. We're actually going to touch on chicken wings later on. I found out this weird statistic about them, but that's a little foreshadowing for you. Keep you on the edge of your seat. Chicken wings. So, anyway, prime, choice, and select. We're talking about marbling. We're talking about fat distribution throughout the meat. That's what it means. Okay, Cody. I hope that cleared stuff up. I think you kind of knew. We talked a little bit the other night on the phone about this, what it actually means a little bit. But after I talked to the farmer, She was kind of like, well, look at this one. Look at this ribeye right here. It's beautifully marbled and it's grass finished, you know. And then she kind of got into, why it makes a difference. Because I asked, I'm like, I read that marbling comes from finishing animals with grain, or like giving them grain, heavy grain diet, basically. Specifically corn and barley. Bing, bing, bing. And marbling also has to do with the age of the animal, and it can even come down to the breed of cow. Upon further research, I found out that breed does matter, okay? And some of the best breeds, of course, this doesn't even really need to be said, but one of the best breeds, of course, is Wagyu. The whole freaking world has heard this freaking word Wagyu, okay? I think a lot of people get it confused too with like a cut of meat. It's not a cut of meat. It is a breed of cow. Okay? It is Wagyu, okay? I've even seen local farmers starting to breed Wagyu genetics into their Angus cows, or their Herefords, or their Red Angus, or their Shorthorns, or their I'm going to butcher this, Murray Grey. I think that's what it's. I can't even read my handwriting from earlier. Those were all breeds that I found that are the best options. Okay, aside from Wagyu, they got Black Angus, obviously. You'll even see that in the grocery store. You'll see beef marked as like, Prime Angus, or Angus Prime, whatever. I've seen that. Or Angus, whatever, okay? Now you're going to start seeing Wagyu. It's going to become like a thing. I'm sure there's like only 50% of the genetic of the cow has to be Wagyu in order for you to legally, licensely sell it, whatever, as Wagyu beef. I'm sure that's going to be the next big thing. I've seen, like I said, a few local places are starting to get that genetic into their herds. Won't be long before farmers are trying to get Wagyu prices at a freaking farm stand. Mark my words, it's the beginning of 2025. It's going to happen. Whatever, the people that will pay for that will pay for that. And, if you're someone that specifically eats heavily marbled beef, like you go out to places and you do buy Wagyu or whatever, you're going to be able to look at a steak and know kind of, yes, this is what I want. This is prime, this is select, this is choice, yada, yada, yada. Put those out of order. It's prime, choice, select. Okay, remember, prime is best, choice is middle, and select is the lower end cut. Our farmer that we spoke with was very helpful, so thank you. If you ever listen to this, I won't name you. You asked to rename nameless, that's fine. But thank you. I appreciate the help. Because I didn't know. You don't grade chicken. I don't grade chicken. It's not a thing. Speaking of chicken. Oh yeah, let me actually finish that by saying fresh beef doesn't need to be graded. Why? Because grading is a lot like the word organic. It has some form of a definition, and at least in graded beef you can see it. But it's really just a government label. Okay? It does provide some difference. Don't get me wrong. There's differences here. You can see it. You can taste it. But grass-fed, local, or local. Let's start with local. Look for the word local. Find it near you. And then try to get that grass-fed. Because even a local beef producer that is doing a little bit of grain, that beef is still superior, okay, to whatever you're going to find in the store. Period. Because you can't find local normally at the old Big Y or Stop and Shop or you name the place. Moving on to chicken. Something we do grow. So bird flu. A lot of people are right now placing pullet orders with us because we do grow pullets. Again, a pullet is an adolescent female chicken that is not ready to lay, but close. Is no longer a chick. And a lot of people are concerned. They're seeing stuff on the news about the old bird flu. Dead geese are just like everywhere, which is weird. And they're saying like those geese are killed by bird flu. I'm going to give you an anecdotal situation I saw on the local radio Facebook page that the town of Putnam put out a release because I guess there were like 5 dead geese on the frozen ice, okay, or something like that. They were not accessible, but they were able to be seen. Yeah, that's weird. But anyway, if you know the area, this big old river that goes through Putnam, big old river, and I guess, someone saw some dead geese sitting out there on the ice. But they couldn't get to them. So the mayor was like, I'm not going to put my employees at risk of getting the bird flu or falling through the ice. Hey, that's cool. Totally get it. We don't know if those geese are dead because of the flu. It is just a general assumption at this point. I read a bunch of the comments. Some people were like freaking out, of course, naturally. But like, who's to say someone didn't just like shoot him or something? Just leave him out there, put him out there, kill them all, just put them in the river. It's just like, I don't know. And then they all like just die on the ice. Like, that's where they all take their last breath from bird flu. I don't know, maybe. It seems kind of weird if you ask me. No one did. No one did ask me. I'm just putting it out there. And I know it. So, bird flu. We're going to touch on bird flu. I did a little research. I was curious. I said, is Canada dealing with this, right? They're claiming that migratory birds are the main source of bird flu, okay? Which, quite frankly, could be. I could see it. But then we also have to assume that, like, the farmers that are going into these closed grow operations that are relatively, well, I don't even want to say relatively clean because they're not, but like they do have some form of biosecurity plan. So whether that farmer puts on a suit before they go in their grow barn or they walk through bleach, they're doing some form of protection for themselves and for the purpose of the flock, right? So the reality is, if it is from migratory birds, just let's all use our brains for a second. These are closed buildings. Ducks, geese, swans, storks. Most common migratory bird that carries avian influenza. Okay? Waterfowl. Yes, it can be in other birds. It's primarily in waterfowl, right? I just gave you a situation of dead geese. People are like, dead geese everywhere. Why? Could be bird flu, I guess. But just do a little thinking. Like, if these are closed barns, there is no waterfowl that is getting into one of these buildings. Give them a Google. You can look at what they look like. Ducks, geese, storks, and swans are not going into these places, especially wild ones. Okay? Okay. For no reason. Not even a reason to build a nest. They don't do that. So then one would have to infer that the farmer is not practicing biosecurity and that they are going into this environment having come from an environment where there is waterfowl and their feces, right? So I started thinking about this. I'm like, yeah, okay. So maybe some of these farmers are hunters. They like to duck hunt, whatever, hunt for geese. I'm sure there's no season on swans or storks. So, right. So they're at least around these agents, these vectors of disease. Maybe they're hunting, right? Maybe they're doing some duck hunting, whatever. And then they don't wash up before they go check on their grow house, which I would find kind of surprising. But there's humans involved, so errors are going to occur. All right, so Jim, the farmer, comes in from hunting ducks, bags a bunch of waterfowl, and has exposed himself to avian influenza. Then he goes into his grow barn. And in his grow barn, he then picks up a chicken and or has feces on his feet or blood on his feet or boots and then contaminates his barn. Boom. Very easy. Okay, that would have to be the scenario if waterfowl were the main vectors. Let's just think for a second. Okay. The other option would be that these farms are located near rivers and waterways. And you better believe that Georgia, being the biggest, Georgia is the biggest producing state out of all 50 when it comes to meat birds. You better believe that I went on Google Maps and looked at large poultry farms all over the state of Georgia. There's a lot. And like Pilgrim's Pride, I think it's just Pilgrim now, is one of the biggest names that no one knows that produces a lot of the chicken. I don't want to say most. A lot of the chicken that people consume. You know, it's the Purdue you don't know about, I like to say. It's the other P, Pilgrim. Check them out. Look them up. Anyway, I did look at a lot of these sites via Google Maps and did not see a lot of rivers or waterways. But, again, it doesn't mean that there's not migratory waterfowl that are frequenting both locations. There is no reason for them to frequent a poultry farm. There really is no reason for waterfowl to frequent a poultry farm unless they are located near where they nest, which would have to be a body of water, even a swamp or something. Now, did I look at every single one of them? No, but I looked at the biggest ones, and they're not located by water, okay? Not the ones I saw. I'm leaving space for me to be wrong, because I totally could be. It's just what I saw. Now, again, Georgia is not a microcosm. And it actually isn't the biggest. The biggest producing state is Arkansas. Goes Arkansas, Missouri, and then they say Delaware. Some places say Oklahoma, okay, but other sources have said Delaware. I was kind of like, Delaware? So I did the same thing with Delaware. I went on a map, typed in chicken farms Delaware. Delaware's a small freaking state when you're talking about these other like states, southern states. There's just no comparison for size here. And Delaware does produce a good amount of chicken. There are some decent farms. And the thing with that is most of Delaware is what's called a peninsula. So it's surrounded by salt water, meaning there's birds there. So that could be a real thing. That I could see. Okay? But again, there's no real reason that migratory waterfowl would wander onto a chicken grow site. Now, we're going to get more clarity on this whole topic this weekend when we talk with Chelsea, who used to work at one of these places. So if you're interested in this, stay tuned for next week's guest interview. It's going to be episode 33. Small plug. Ding, ding, ding. So, okay. Waterfowl, the main vector here. How are they getting in contact with the chickens? It's kind of up in the air. Now, the other option, aside from the farmer Jim walking in duck crap, walking in his barn, okay, shooting some geese, whatever, okay, getting into a tussle with a swan, they can be aggressive, and bringing back some DNA to his friggin' grow house, okay, aside from Jim doing it, farmer Jim, then it could be rodents. So on the CDC website, it also does say that rodents are a pretty good vector for avian influenza. They will carry that stuff. You know, apparently they can carry it inside them, but also like they're on the ground. They're touching every inch of the ground that they walk on. So if they walk over some waterfowl crap, hey, it's literally on them. Okay? Now, that to me probably makes the most sense. That the rats are bringing it into these poultry houses because rats dig, they can get into those houses, no problemo, okay? So if the rats are the vector of the old AI, which is not artificial intelligence, it is avian influenza in this case, then yeah, I could totally see that. The rats, the pests, the vermin, they're bringing it in, it's gross. That just makes more sense to me than waterfowl. because there's really no reason that migratory waterfowl would find their way into a broiler grow operation. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense. Now, if you had like a pasture raised layer flock, which some of those have been decimated by bird flu, okay, that you're getting warmer with blaming the migratory waterfowl, because geese are notorious for nesting in fields. They do love themselves a lot of grass. They love eating grass. So that makes sense. That to me makes a little bit of sense. Now that's really on the farmer to kind of like manage, have the geese been here? What are they doing to deter waterfowl? And why is the government not telling people to stop buying birdseed? Like, stop buying birdseed. If it's in migratory birds, now it's primarily waterfowl, but if it's in migratory birds, then stop feeding wild birds, okay? Now, the silent underdog here is the turkey. The wild turkey can also be a vector, a transmitter of this disease. But again, maybe a turkey is more likely to wander into a poultry grow-op. But even then, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But, hey, knock on wood, we don't have any issues here. These are just observations I've made. Do your own research, think for yourself, and don't be scared. Just be aware. It's out there. Do I think those dead geese in Putnam could have died from avian influenza? Sure. There's no way of telling if no one's going to take them off the ice and test them. But we do know that in the state there's been at least two reported backyard flocks that have tested positive for avian influenza, one in New Haven County and the other in New London County. We are Windham County, so we're out of the zone, but, birds fly, clearly. Migratory is in their name, so whatever. I'm going to do my best to stay away from waterways. That's the best thing I think I can do to prevent the spread of avian influenza. I want to point out I did a little bit of research on if Canada is dealing with avian influenza. Turns out they don't grow a ton of chicken. Actually, they do grow some chicken, but not like us. And they do have bird flu. It doesn't seem to be as pervasive as it is here in the States, but they are dealing with some form of avian influenza on their laying chickens and with their broiler chickens. So it's not just us. It's going on, which makes sense if it is migratory birds solely, right? I also found out that it is illegal in Canada to feed chicken litter to cows, but it is totally legal here in all 50 states to do so. Also, I was talking to my dad the other day, and he was like, hey, we talked about, the cows eating the chicken litter. We did a little research on it. Yeah, it's legal, but they got to cook it first, right? And I just started laughing. I was like, oh, okay, well, at least the crap is cooked and not like raw crap, It's still crap. It's still actual feces from another living creature that you're feeding to another living creature that should not be eating that stuff. So I just thought that was funny. It's illegal in Canada to do that. It is totally optimal to do it here in the United States. So, oh yeah, they also have some stuff on their, it's like their equivalent to the CDC website. I can't remember what it was called, FCIC something. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that one. About, cooking your chicken and cooking your eggs to make sure that you don't have any avian influenza on your products, on your meat or on your eggs. And I'm like, if you look it up, it's not a foodborne illness. It straight up says it's not a foodborne illness. But if the government is saying to be sure to cook your meat and your eggs to to kill the avian influenza, that would mean that they also think that there's a possibility or a small likelihood that it's in the food, and that's something else. So just be aware. Be cooking your meat out there, or getting it local. I don't know. Are we done with bird flu yet? Am I just gonna stop with bird flu? Is that it? Is that all I want to talk about with chickens? Actually, yeah, it is. So the other thing, don't feed the wild birds. Like, if you're really scared, don't feed the wild birds. Okay, don't do that. We're not gonna do that. That's another thing. We just won't walk by the water, and we won't feed the wild birds. I went on the Poultry Federation website. Really not an exciting place, and I found some interesting stats about the chicken industry in this country. Now, here we go. According to the Poultry Federation website, there's over 2 million jobs that the chicken industry creates in this country, which is equivalent to $132.7 billion in wages, and generates $663.6 billion in annual economic impact. Also creates $54 billion in taxes for the feds and such, the government. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't realize that. Now, I'm going to assume that that's talking about like meat packers and chicken, the farmers and such that grow them, and the big chicken lobbyists, I would imagine, are encompassed in that. That's right, Big Chicken has lobbyists. Look it up. It's gross. Morgan Spurlock, the gentleman that did Super Size Me and then Super Size Me 2, for those of you out there that have seen those two documentaries, they're amazing. Check out the second one. He opens a fast food chicken restaurant and does a deep dive on Big Chicken. And guess what? Big Chicken won't chat. They're too turkey. All right. Sorry. They're too chicken. That's even worse. Anyway, check it out. It's called Super Size Me 2. And then there's something else. But anyway, Morgan Spurlock, great stuff. I do believe he has since passed, so God rest his soul. Anyway, yeah, chicken gross. Oh, yeah, and then there's one. So the Super Bowl's coming up, all right? And I don't do that. I don't do any of that. I don't know what it's about. But, fun fact, chicken wings. You know how many chicken wings are going to be consumed for the Super Bowl alone? This is disgusting. If I had a drum roll feature and wouldn't destroy my computer by trying to add it into this episode, I would do it right here. But 1.47 billion chicken wings will be consumed for this Super Bowl. That is a lot of wings. I think that's equivalent to like 4 per person in the country. Something like that, right? There's 340 million people. That goes into, yeah, it's like 4 wings, maybe 4.5 wings per American. I don't know how that makes you feel. But that's crazy. 1.47 billion chicken wings for this Super Bowl. I don't even know who's playing. I don't even know what sport it is. Moving on, I want to close the show today with a special shout out to all you folks that have been listening to the show. We use an app here, and, it's a program, really. And the program allows us to see in which states, in which countries, people are downloading and listening to the Simply Growing Food Show. Now, I don't know how accurate it is, but it says New York State is our second biggest download state. Right now, it's actually beating Connecticut for the past quarter. So, people in New York, please, if you hear me say this and you're listening to the show, I want to hear from you. Reach out. Send us a message. Go through the website. Whatever you can do. I want to know what you think of the show. I want to know if you have any questions. And I want to know how you heard about us, What do you think? And that's, there's a lot of Connecticut downloads. Don't get me wrong. That's our leading state since we started the show. But New York is going to pass it. And bringing up the rear, we're actually in 18 We got downloads this last quarter in 18 states and several countries. New Zealand, Australia, United Kingdom, and Portugal. We've had downloads in Japan as well. Not this past quarter, though, so they haven't been listening. But let me see the states here. The state breakdowns this past quarter is New York, 60% of all downloads. Connecticut coming in hot with 26%. California, that might be our friend Courtney. Courtney, let me know. Then Massachusetts, Florida, Georgia, Maine, Oregon, Indiana, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Virginia, District of Columbia, Texas, North Carolina, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin. Thank you all for tuning in to the Simply Growing Food podcast. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think of the show. And let me know, like, what you're dealing with. If you guys are farmers or homesteaders, you know, let me know what your farm's like. Let me know what your homestead's like. I want to know more about you and how you heard about us and what you think. So reach out, guys. And we have an incentive. At the end of the show, there is a cover I did of a song by an artist. What you got to do is listen to that song, send us the name of the artist and the name of the song. Doesn't matter how you send it. You can go through www.simplygrowingfood.com. Click contact us, whatever, or become a customer. Just send us the name of the artist and the name of the song. And when you do that, and you're right, of course, you got to be right. You're entered in to a raffle, and we are giving away a Simply Growing Food Daigle Farm t-shirt. That I can ship all over the country and all over the world, so it won't go bad. And if you're interested in winning, okay, if you're interested in winning the Daigle Farm Simply Growing Food t-shirt, you got to listen to the song that we closed the show with today, okay, and send us the name of the artist and the name of the song, okay? Also, if you liked it, tell us if you liked it, okay? I'm not a professional musician, but I've been playing for a long time, and mixing songs on this software is just kind of hard. I'm trying to figure it out. And mixing the show, of course, which I don't do any edits, so yeah, I think that's going to do it, guys. Again, special shout out to New York State listeners. Let me know who you are. Yeah, you can reach out to us to enter the raffle. Everybody listening, if you want to enter the raffle for a chance to win a Simply Growing Food Daigle Farm t-shirt, okay? It's blue, it's beautiful, and it's meant for you. You got to play to win, though. Listen to the song at the end of the show. Send us the artist. Send us the name of the song. You're automatically entered, if you're right, into the raffle. I'll pull the raffle in 10, 15 days, something like that. Maybe we'll give it a week. Nope. We'll give it a month. I don't know. Sooner than later. All right, let's run it. Let's run it for 2 weeks. You got 14 days. Listen to this episode. Enter the raffle. Get the questions right. Boom. Win a t-shirt. Change your world. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Simply Growing Food podcast. I hope you found it informative and educational, and if not, that's a shame. Bye-bye. I know it ain't all that late, but you should probably leave. I recognize that look in your eyes, and you should probably leave. Cause I know you, yeah, you know me. We both know where this is gonna lead. And you want me to say that I want you to stay, so you should probably leave. Yeah, you should probably leave. Hey, thanks for listening to the Simply Growing Food podcast. If you liked it, please share us with a friend or a family member. We appreciate your support. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear us talk about. If you got questions about farming, if you got questions about what you're eating, please send it to us. You can send it to us at www.simplygrowingfood.com, or you can send us an email at simplygrowingfood@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Simply Growing Food Podcast, or just find us on Facebook under Daigle Farm. Give us a Google for Daigle Farm. You'll find us. We appreciate the support. Thanks for all of it.